Hi guys, my name is Dustin Apple, aka White River Rambo, and this is Bloodline Bowfishing TV. Don't forget to hit that little red and black subscribe box right there in the corner, or ding the bell. When you ding the bell, you're going to get a notification that, hey, Rambo's dropped a new video. Might just learn something. We love to talk bowfishing around here. If you guys ever need anything, okay, you're always more than welcome to hit me up or ask any of my buddies at Bloodline Bowfishing TV's Facebook page. We're a brotherhood. We love helping each other out. I don't care if you're talking trailer maintenance, maybe a little bit of light fabrication, you're picking batteries, you need a generator, maybe you're building a fan. Getting ready to do that here before too long, hopefully. But today we're talking trailer hubs. I don't care if you've been a boat owner for a week or you've been a boat owner for your whole life. Sooner or later, one of these bad boys is going to give you trouble. Hopefully, you take care of it in the spring instead of late one night alongside the road coming back from a tournament, or always at the worst possible time, right? I promise at the end of the video you're going to have all the tips and techniques to repairing your trailer hub. Alright? It's going to be as simple as that. I want to tell you a few little things that you can keep on hand, whether you keep it in your truck or in your boat, just in case you have that breakdown. We're going to get you out of that bad situation. Alright? Thanks for joining me. This is Bloodline Bowfishing TV. We're glad to have you. Okay, so before we get started, we need to be prepared. It's all about being prepared in this situation, okay? But we're here at the house, we're getting ready to do this, we need a handful of tools. First off, a small flat screwdriver, a pair of pliers, and a hammer, okay? Pretty much going to be it. Might surprise you, but some non-necessity items. I'm going to have a few greasy parts, so I'm going to put them in that little cardboard box. I've got some rags, and we've got some extra parts that we're going to swap on this application. But hey, that's it. So let's get started. Very first thing you need to do, as always, think safety first. Okay, I've got this trailer jacked up. It's on jack stands, and it's completely safe. Okay, it's completely stable. Never put yourself in a bad situation. I don't care how bad the roadside gets. Don't take a risk. First off, you got to remove the dust cap from the end of the axle, and we're going to do that with a hammer. Now, all you're going to do is kind of pull on it and hit it on one side, rotate it a half a turn, hit it some more. Okay, it's already starting to move. This is a brand new axle. And you don't want to move it a whole lot. Just all you're doing is rocking it back and forth. Okay, just keep spinning the wheel around. Pull on it with your hand, tap on it with a hammer. Sooner or later, you get out towards the end here, and you've got just enough space where you can get your flat screwdriver in and around the lip. Okay? Depending on how wide your screwdriver is, you might just be done with a hammer. I got a tiny screwdriver. There we go. That's it. Okay. Now, the purpose of this dust cap, these are Dexter axles. Okay, so they have easy lube hubs. I'll show you on the camera here in just a second, but there is a zert fitting or a grease fitting right here on the end of the axle. Now, instead of having to constantly remove the dust cap to grease the bearings, this style of dust cap has a black little rubber grommet at the end of it, and you can pry that out, hit the zert fitting with a grease gun, just a couple squeezes, and the center of this spindle has a hole in it, and it goes all the way back to where it will grease the inner bearing. Okay, now you're going to find out through this build that the inner bearing is the most important part. All right. This end, on this end, okay, is pretty much sealed up. It's all covered in grease and doesn't really gain water. It doesn't, have a lot of water get in there. The failure 90% of the time is the seal around the spindle, okay? Whether it's because a bearing gets hot or you got too much grease in there, the seal fails. And when the seal fails, water seeps in. And then you go driving down the road, maybe a little faster than you should, all that water mixes with the grease. And then the grease breaks down. And then the bearing fails. And then there you are alongside the road, okay? That's kind of how it happens. So, there's our dust cap. Now, we're going to change camera angles. You're getting in here nice and tight so you can see how this particular axle is built. On these particular Dexter axles, they have a clip that mounts around the nut. And the best way to get it off is to put your screwdriver underneath the clip and just kind of pop it off. Okay? This being a new axle, we should have no trouble removing this with our fingers. Okay, we're going to go ahead and throw this in the box. Now, as you can see, we've got red grease on here. All right, this, you know, is a standard 3,500 pound axle. There is an argument: should you use red tacky grease or should you use marine grease? And honestly, it's been my experience that both are completely fine, because both of them break down. Marine grease, you know, all greases break down with water, okay? And anytime you're going to have a failure, this is our washer, our little spacer, okay, that the back of our bearing rides on. Now, we're going to pull our bearing out here, okay? This is our outer bearing. All right, you can see what it looks like. We'll go ahead and pull our hub completely off. Now, here on the back of our hub, get this over where you can see it. On the back of our hub, you can see here is our inner seal. All right, and this is pressed in. It's pressed into our hub, and then right inside here, you see it moving around here. That's our inner bearing. All right. I'll spin back around on this side so you can see inside the hub here. See this this angled piece, the shiny part right there in the center? That's your race. All right. Now I'll get my outer bearing here. And you can see how the bearing itself is tapered. Well, that race is tapered as well, and that is where that bearing rides on, is that race. So any trailer hub you're going to buy is going to have the races already pre-fit and pre-pressed into the hub. Okay. You know, I don't care where you buy your trailer hubs at. They're pretty much all going to have the races already inserted into them. Although they are repairable and replaceable, but we're not going to get into that today. That takes advanced techniques to get those out. So onto our spindle. Now we need to really pay attention to our spindle, especially if you have a breakdown. If you have a bearing that fails while you're going down the road, metal comes apart and it cannot leave that hub, so it's just running around in there and grinding everything as you're going down the road until you see it. Okay, hopefully you see it, hopefully you catch it in time, but you know, hey, accidents happen. It is a failure, and if it happens at night, it might be hard to see. The most important piece on this spindle is this piece right here, right in the back, because that's where your inner seal runs. Here is what an inner seal looks like when it's not pressed into the back of a hub. And as you can see, all it is a rubber bushing, okay, that is part of a metal collar. The metal collar, of course, gets pressed into the hub, and the rubber is what rides on the inner part of your spindle here. Now, this is a what's known as a double seal. Okay, it has a what looks like a metal spring that goes around there, and it kind of clamps. Okay, kind of pulls tension against the spindle to keep water out. But what it looks like when you put it on your spindle, it shouldn't just glide on there. Okay, you should have to kind of pop it into place. This is what a good fit looks like on your spindle. Okay, if you test your spindle with a new seal and you put it on there, and if you feel any grinding, then chances are you've got a burr on your spindle or something of that nature. But it has to fit tightly. You're trying to keep water out. Okay, any little gap in there at all is going to let water into the hub. If water gets into the hub, it breaks everything down. And no matter how hard you try, water is going to get into the hub one way or another. Okay, but you want to make sure that this is right before you continue on. Now, as I said before, there is a zert fitting in the end of this Dexter axle. This is what's known as an easy lube hub, excuse me. And that zert fitting goes right down the center of the spindle, and it comes out. There is a hole right here. Okay, there may be one on the other side too. Nope, just on one side. Okay, so there is a hole for grease right there, and what that does is it puts grease exactly where it needs to be. Okay, so as you can imagine, your seal is right there, and your inner bearing is right here, and that's where that hole is. Okay, so it is adding fresh grease to your inner bearing. Once again, this is the biggest fail part on a trailer hub. Okay, by getting one of these axles and getting just a couple squirts of grease on occasion. You don't want too much, you don't want too often, but putting fresh grease around that bearing can greatly increase the lifespan of your spindles, of your hub assembly, in between a rebuild like we're doing today. Imagine you are broke down alongside the road and you've got spare grease and you've got a new seal to rebuild this, but you don't have a spare hub. So we need to be able to rebuild this. So first things first, take your tire and lay it down to where it's solid. Okay. Next thing is you're going to take your flat screwdriver and you're going to come in here, and without hitting the bearing, which is the hard part, okay, we're going to come in here and we're going to try to tap out our existing seal. There we go. That's it. That's all there was. Okay, let me get rid of some of this grease so I don't make a mess on camera gear and everything else. But as you can see, we have removed the seal and the bearing to the inner portion of this trailer hub. Now, once again, you can see the race that is right in there, the shiny coned section. And if I reach right down in here, here is our bearing. Now, this is just the spring that goes on the seal. But you need to inspect both of these before you put this back together. So I'll just set this right here. Now, when you're inspecting your bearings, okay, you need to wipe the grease off, roll each one of them around, look for discoloration. If it is brown or purple or blue to where that would show that it had gotten hot, you need to make note of that. You need to look and make sure that there are no grooves wore in the bearings themselves. And you need to make a mental note of the grease that you're pulling out of this. It must have been a bug or something on the plywood there. I wondered what that piece of black was. But so you're going to look on the inside of the bearing where it rides on the spindle itself. And you're going to look at just the overall shape of the bearing, okay? If it's shiny and doesn't show any discolorations, then, you know, and you can put your fingers in here, and the inner part should roll around the outer part and you know, feel. Does it feel like it's binding up? Does it feel like it's running freely? It's a yes or no thing, okay? And this one being new, of course, we are definitely going to reuse it. Okay, so let's talk about a bad situation. Let's say that bearing is completely trash. So you're going to have to get in your box of goodies, and you know, just a little preview. Here's my box of goodies. This is what I keep with me on hand. All right. You see, I got a dust cap in there. I've got a spare seal. I've got a couple cotter pins because my axle uses cotter pins instead of the brass cap. And I use a sandwich baggie that is already pre-pressed, pre-packed with grease. I've got an inner and an outer bearing, okay? Chances are you've got a mother, aunt, wife, somebody who keeps cottage cheese containers, okay? That's what I'm using right here, and that is perfectly fine. I can keep that almost anywhere and rebuild a hub alongside the road. Now, let's say that maybe you're not quite as prepared as I am, or you want to take it one step further. I will keep this in my truck. For those of you who don't know what this is, and as you can see, I've got marine grease in here. It's blue instead of red. This is a bearing packer, okay? Pretty neat little tool. It has its own specific use, but the inside is threaded, and you can get these for like 18 bucks on Amazon. And how it works is you're going to lay the bearing down inside the cone, okay? And you want to lay it down so the grease will ride up inside, in between the inner and outer part of the bearing, and go up and out. So I'm going to lay this bearing right down in here. We'll lay our plunger on top here, and then all we're going to do is slow, steady pressure on the bearing. And it takes quite a bit of force to push that grease through. Now, that worked out quite well. See if I can pull it out of here and show you exactly what happened. Okay, as you can see, we've got green and red, or I'm sorry, blue and red grease. What happened was that blue grease shot up through the bearing, pushed all the red grease out. Okay, this is the beauty of this little tool. Now, not only is this bearing packed, it's packed with brand new grease. It has pushed all of the old grease out, and it's ready to go back into our hub assembly. Pretty cool, right? That's an awesome little tool, one of those must-haves, whether you sit it on the shelf or whether you carry it with you down the road like I do everywhere I go. So, once again, if you're alongside the road you might have to get a little creative with this next part, but I know you can handle it. So we're going to take our inner bearing, we're going to set it right down inside our hub, right against our race. Okay. Now, here's the question of how much grease should you use? How much grease do you need? Okay. That bearing is full of grease. It has all the grease that it needs. However, if you surround it with grease, then chances are that it'll keep more water out, right? So you're going to put the bearing in there. We're going to fill it full of grease after we get it assembled, okay? And you know, that's pretty much it. We're not going to sit here with a knife or just inject it full of grease. That's kind of silly, but we are going to put some grease in there, but it's not going to add any more than is already around the bearings. Now, to drive a seal back into the back of a hub, I prefer to use a block of wood. And all you need to do is line it up so it sits down in there fairly square, okay, square being the key. And we're going to take our hammer, lay a block of wood in there. You want the wood against that small piece of tin instead of this big steel hammer, okay? Okay, looks like we've got it started. Now we're just going to drive it home. Okay. The beauty about using a piece of wood too is you can't drive it in home any further than what it's meant to. The wood will hit the bearing or the hub itself and stop it. It needs to be flush, and that looks pretty damn good. So this hub, believe it or not, after we apply a little bit of grease on the interior of the hub, it's ready to go back on our spindle. So I always pack my bearings full of grease before I put them in there. Now we're going to pack the hub, and all I'm going to do, stick my finger in there, and I'm going to get a big dollop of it, and I'm just going to work it in around the bearing, in between the bearing and the seal, okay? And that's all I'm going to do on this side. Now, on the other side, I'm just going to take a few dollops on my finger here, and I'm going to fill the front end of it. Not fill, but just like this, okay? Teaspoon, all right? Maybe 3 or 4 of them. You don't need to completely pack and fill that thing full. You got to have a little bit of room for new grease when you go to shoot it in there with your zerk fitting. But that's where we're going to stop. Now all we got to do is reassemble this hub. Since this spindle already has good grease on it, I'm not going to apply grease to it. But you know how it is right now is a good idea. You can just reach in here, grab a little bit of this, and kind of move it around. I already greased my seal, so I don't need to waste added grease and put it again here. But all you're going to do is try not to squeegee off the grease by pushing the seal in around, okay? Now, some will push out. Just try to push it back in there as much as you can, okay? No big deal there. Now, we're going to take our bearing, our outer bearing, all right? The cone shape faces in, the small part faces in because it's going to ride around the race. We'll push it in. We'll take our washer, okay? There's only one way you can put it on. It's got a D shape to it. We'll put it on, push it up in there. Now we're going to take our nut, okay? Make sure it's on straight. Tighten it with your hand. You know, when I talked about the tools that was required, I didn't mention a wrench, and you don't need one. All right, I've got this finger tight all the way down to where it is completely snug. Okay, it would ride like that. However, it will you know, increase the wear on your race. What you need to do, tighten it all the way down, finger tight, and then turn it a quarter of a turn to loosen. Okay, quarter turn to loosen. You want 32nd to a 16th of play, just enough play that you can detect it. Okay, and that's where you want to leave it. Now, our nut here isn't a castle nut. A lot of older style axles will be a castle nut with a cotter pin through it. Okay, that's how my other boat trailer is. But like I said, this new one, it uses a I don't know what you'd even call this, a little keeper brass ring or some sort. Okay, but we got to index it. Once we get it indexed properly, we just line it up, push it over top of our nut, just like so. Okay, and once we push it in there, we'll check our play again. Okay, that's good to go. The only thing left to do is to put our dust cap on. Now, there's no need to fill this full of grease. I've seen this many times where guys think, well, I can get more grease in there if I fill this full. Well, it's on the other side of the nut. It's not getting near the bearings. It's not doing nothing. A dust cap's a dust cap, folks. It's meant to keep dust out. Okay? It is a good idea to use a block of wood. But for the sake of the video, that's good enough. We're going to just tap that down until the collar is completely flush to the outer part of the hub all the way around. And that's good to go. Well guys, that wasn't too bad now, was it? Hopefully you can see here at Bloodline Bow Fishing, we try to help you, the sportsman, get out of a rough situation. Not only be successful, but you know, when it comes time to where you know you need to know how to fix something, we got you covered. All right, here's what I keep with me in the truck at all times: my little milk crate full of goodies. Okay, jumper cables, duct tape, zip ties, bungee cords for some odd reason. You know, but I've got a spare hub in there. I've got some wrenches, hammers, screwdrivers, you know, little stuff, things of that nature. I keep my little cottage cheese container full of goodies, spare bearings that are pre-packed full of grease. Once again, this is called a grease packer. Awesome tool, Amazon, eBay, less than $20, but an invaluable tool. Did I miss anything? Oh yeah, shop towels. How about a flashlight? Okay, throw a flashlight in your roadside hazard box, if you will. Shop towels, all right? Trust me, this is a greasy, nasty job. Guys, Dustin Apple, White River Rambo, Bloodline Bow Fishing TV, Muzzy Bow Fishing. Don't forget to hit us up on our Bloodline Bow Fishing Facebook page. Like that Muzzy Bow Fishing Facebook page. Keep up with us. Keep up with me on Instagram, and hey, send me a shout out, man. Tell me what's going on in your world. What do you want to see next? At Bloodline Bow Fishing, we're constantly pushing the envelope, trying to come out with better content that can help you, the sportsman. Sooner or later, we're probably going to have a few more videos around maybe building boats. Maybe we'll get a fan going. Maybe we help tune this kicker. Maybe we're going to mount an outboard here pretty soon. Maybe. Guys, be safe while you're on the water. Don't forget to wear them PFDs. Give me a shout out. We'll see you somewhere down the road. Hopefully not broke down alongside the road, but I'll stop and help you if I do. We'll see you.